What is up, Raveraide fam? Welcome to another episode of the Raveraide podcast with your host, Tyler Hardy. And as always, I just want to take a moment to express my overwhelming love and gratitude for each and every single one of you guys who are tuning in on a daily and weekly basis to hear about all things Raveraide, biohacking, spirituality, self-improvement, all with the main focus and intention to help you become the most self-loved and self-actualized version of yourself that you can be. So then that way you can start expressing your gifts to the world and start making the world a better place, because right now we need it now more than ever. And yeah, let's get into it today. So what we're going to be talking about specifically is my journey through entrepreneurship and what that's been like, what it's required of me, how it's changed me, how it's molded me, some of the things that it's highlighted about me that I didn't realize or know, or changes that needed to occur so that way I could get the most out of, what we're wanting to accomplish here at Raveraide. So hopping into it, this is my first, real entrepreneurial venture that I've ever done in my life. I've usually always worked for someone else, had a lot of sales jobs primarily, but this was the first thing that I, ventured out and did on my own. And there's so many nuances to it. And, we always make, comments now, going into 2 years of this, that if we knew what we knew now, it would take like 2 months to do all the stuff that it's taken us a couple years to do. And obviously I do believe, tapping into spirituality, that all things happen in perfect divine timing, and that, you need to learn what you need to learn. And all of those things are just unconscious unawareness. And the moment that you become aware of them, you know that forever, that process and that step. And so, I treat Raveraide as, the foundational building blocks towards bigger and bigger things in the future, because it's not the only thing that I'm going to be doing in my life. But it's definitely the thing that I need to be doing now. So it's almost like I call it like the training grounds for the future of whatever my purpose is and whatever I'm supposed to do, in my time here. But some of the big things that I've really, really taken away from, Raveraide is, one, winning doesn't really care. It requires more and more of you on a daily basis, and it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter, what your day was like before. It doesn't matter what else is going on in your life. Winning has a demand from you and an expectation from you, and that if you want to achieve anything great in your life, there's going to be sacrifices that need to be made. There's going to be decisions that are tough that need to be made. There's going to be things that you're going to choose to miss out on in exchange for what, winning requires of you. And that goes with anything. This isn't just, if you're an entrepreneur, this is every single aspect of your life. If you want to have a great body and great health, if you want to have, great mental health, if you want to have, whatever it is that you desire in your life, it's going to require, a change in perspective and releasing of things that are not necessarily conducive for, what winning is requiring of you. And so there's been numerous times where, I've talked to other people who aren't in the entrepreneurial space, and I've kind of had to tell them some of the things that we've had to do, or I've had to do, in order to, keep Raveraide going, keep it growing, keep it sustained, keep it, alive in a lot of ways. And people look at me like I'm crazy, but I think a lot of that just comes down to the faith that I have in what we're creating, the faith that I have in the people that we serve, the faith that I have in the planet and the world for what it could be if more people were willing to take the risk and do what was required of them on a daily basis. And so, my first lesson, just to reiterate this, is, winning doesn't care. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. It doesn't care about previous results. It doesn't matter what you did previously in your old jobs. It doesn't matter who you were before. It's what you are right now, and what you're willing to be right now, will determine how much you get out of this life experience and how much you get out of your entrepreneurial journey. And there are times when, I've had instances where, our hands have kind of been tied behind our back a little bit. And it's been one of those things where we've had to make some hard decisions. We've had to, sacrifice a lot. Some of the more notable things that have had to happen to get to this point in my entrepreneurial journey is, selling my home. So then that way we could, continue to fund the business forward, because we haven't taken on any sort of, funding of any nature. It's all been self-funded and privately funded through, the resources that I've had available to me. And so I sold my home, my first home in Utah, put all of that into Raveraide, and it's gotten it to where it's at now, which is a really good place. And so I'm glad that we took that shot and, definitely took that risk. But that was what winning required of me at that time. It wasn't one of those things where it was like, oh, I'd like to, have this and keep doing this. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're really going to take this to the next level, if you're going to take this to where you want to take it to, then you're going to need to do this. And it's very simple. And that's one thing that I do like about entrepreneurship, is it's very cut and dry. It's very, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. You're either fully committed or you're not committed. There is no gray area and in between. And when in areas where you are in that in between area, it highlights and magnifies those areas, and you can get away with it for a little bit of time until the need and the demand to win increases, and your output has to increase with it. In those areas in which you've been, kind of 80-85% there, they've got to be 100% now. And I can't tell you how many times there's been when we've had high pressure situations, like before Singularity, before Gold Rush, pretty much all of last year is just like this, skin of our teeth, high pressure situations to be able to deliver what we promised to, vendors or promoters, the community, etc., hitting deadlines that we say we're going to hit. Like there's been some high pressure situations where, if we didn't figure those things out and use, high levels of executive decision, there's a good chance that we maybe wouldn't have been able to, deliver the way that we promised. And that's one thing that's really important to us here at the company. It's one of our big values, is making sure that we over deliver on, what we promised. Because personally, like, just so you guys know a little bit about me, like, one of my biggest pet peeves is people who say that they're going to do something and they don't do that. And that definitely stems from childhood trauma, from parentals saying that they would do things that they said they were going to do and then not delivering on them. So it's really important to me in my entrepreneurial journey that if we say we're going to do something, that we get it done and we deliver to the best of our ability. And that's what winning expects. It expects us to, deliver day in and day out. And it's one of those things where, I forgot who said this quote, but success isn't owned. It's, rent's due every day. Every single day you have to wake up and pay those dues, and you get to, rise up to the occasion of whatever is needed and required of you. And it ebbs and flows. There are times when there's more lax periods where you're able to kind of zoom out and look at everything and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is the direction we want to head. Then there's times when you have to zoom in and be more granular with everything and really, hustle and grind to make things work. And so, that's the first lesson I would say is, winning doesn't care. It expects a lot of you. And so if you're going to be getting into, an entrepreneurial journey, just know that it's going to require you to change and adapt and mold and become something that maybe you weren't previously before. If you want to truly win, if you want to win as badly as you want to be alive, then it's going to require you to do things that you haven't done before. And that's what's going to make you extraordinary, honestly, is it's not about the end result. It's about who we're becoming in the process, and I can say that I've become a much better person because of Raveraide. It's given me massive amounts of purpose to be alive and massive amounts of purpose to serve, the world like I've always wanted to, and to serve you as a listener, in any way that we can. That's going to, ultimately take you to where you want to go, in your own personal journey. And so the second lesson that I would say has been really big is it's been a big ego check in a lot of ways, right? Because I would say up until, recently, with the goals and the ambitions that we have here, for the mission that we're creating here at Raveraide, is like, we desire for it to be really big. We desire for it to be one of those things that makes a massive impact. And I realize that in order to be able to make the impact that we want to make, we have to be a big company, but we also have to do everything right at the same time. And so I would say that, in a lot of ways early on, you're able to get away with a lot of things, and just focus on forward progress. But as you're starting to get towards like those upper echelons and as you're wanting to go to those next levels, you have to acknowledge the fact within yourself that you don't know the path. And that's a bit of a hit on the ego, because the ego always likes to know, it always likes to predict, it always likes to control. And the realization that I've come to is that, acknowledging that you don't know everything is one of the best things that you can do for yourself, because it creates space and opportunity for you to allow the information, the people, and the resources to come in to be able to assist you and guide you into the right direction. And obviously, for those of you who listen to this, I'm very spiritual. So I know that, the universe is conspiring with me to help me create something greater than I could ever even imagine. And so, that ego check of, not knowing what to do, or the ego check of, being wrong about certain things because you haven't had that experience, like it requires you to really drop your ego a lot and confront the ego and handle it and see in which ways it's kept, keeping the business from growing the way that it needs to grow. And sometimes a lot of, I think, businesses struggle because like the people who run them, get in their own way. They don't allow things to blossom and grow. And I realized in some ways that I was doing that as of late. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't be involved with every single project, but I can focus on the main ones that are going to help us move the needle forward the most. And the ones that I can totally delegate. And so it's really helped me with a lot with being able to to trust other humans as well. Because I definitely could see, in my younger years, how I had a large amount of distrust for others. And not being able to rely on others to follow through in the way that I would expect or want them to. And very luckily, we have an amazing team here at Raveraide of people who really show up and, do their best. And, I don't have to sit and, hope that they're going to deliver. They always deliver at such a high quality and a high capacity. And so it's really helped a lot in that fashion too. But I mean, it's been a real ego check in a lot of ways. It's made me realize in so many ways how much I've needed to change on a personal level and from a business standpoint and a friendship level. And, there's been so many changes that's occurred in the past couple of years. And it's made me really realize that, we keep ourselves stuck in a lot of ways. We keep ourselves, continuing similar patterns without even realizing it, because there's not a demand for a change. There's not a demand for, being exceptional. So as a result of that, if there's not a reason to change, then most people don't change, right? And like we've talked about in previous episodes, is there's only two reasons why people change. It's, pain avoidance or to gain pleasure. And so for me, it's I, one, don't want the pain of, the business not doing the best it possibly can, but two, also wanting to achieve the pleasure of accomplishment and servitude of, the community and the world in the best way that we possibly can. It's a double-edged sword, and it's a great motivator for, the desire to not want to be the same, to see, to illuminate those blind spots that we all have, in our own experience, and really get down to the bottom and the core root of why things are the way that they are. So that way we can start getting more and more out of the experience that we want to have and start driving the results, and that driving all the results that we want to achieve, whether that be, in entrepreneurship or our physical health or our mental health or our relationships or our finances or whatever it is. This stuff's all applicable to every single realm and sphere of life that is important. So just because I'm talking about entrepreneurship doesn't mean that there's not, great things to extract and implement into other, arenas of life. And so it's really again, important to know that when you're going to those next levels, it's okay not to know. It's okay to acknowledge the fact that, hey, this is new to me. I'm stepping outside my normal realm of comfort here, and I'm really looking for guidance. I'm really looking for, the right person or, my intuition to guide me into the right direction here. And then you just stay open and you allow that to come in, and then you follow what feels right to you. And so a lot of the times when I'm like, okay, what's the direction? Especially right now, I think this is a good time to touch on this, is we have so many projects going on here. And I know we're heading in the right direction. I know we're doing the right things. But the important thing to know is there's an order of operations in which there would be the most ideal outcome. And since I don't have all that information, it puts me in a place where I need to consciously allow that to come in. And so I've really been focusing on taking a step back, slowing everything down, observing every single scenario, and then from there being able to make the right decisions, because it's more important to move correctly than it is to move quickly. It's more important to move correctly than it is quickly, and that's what's really going to help us get the results that we want to get here. Alrighty, guys, thanks for the short intermission. But yeah, so basically, the last thing that I want to talk about in regards to, kind of like my entrepreneurial journey and like what it's taught me and what I've learned from this is something that I mentioned previously, is specifically the importance of moving correctly versus moving quickly. And I do, believe that there's an importance and emphasis on working quickly in times when you need to work quickly, but there's a huge emphasis on moving correctly, because moving correctly is what's going to get you where you want to go much quicker. It's not always about the speed, it's about the quality in which you do everything. So this applies to not only entrepreneurship, but in every single thing that you do in your life. If you're always, moving too quickly and taking back steps because of mistakes that were made, it's going to cost you a lot of time, money, and resources. And so it's really important to make sure that, when we're doing things specifically inside the business, that we're doing them with the intent to, compound the right steps, one step after another. It's one thing after another. And then that way we're going to get where we want to go in a higher quality. We're going to maintain our pace. We're going to make sure that we're getting, the best results possible. And so, like I was mentioning before, we've kind of had to slow things down a little bit. And I've, consciously chosen to slow things down a little bit because of the fact that we have a lot of projects going on. I want to make sure that we do everything correctly. And I want to make sure that we, deliver the best products, the best services, the best resources, the best information. And it's not always about being first to the market. It's not always about being the fastest. It's about doing everything correctly and making sure that the consumer, you, is getting the best, outcomes possible. And I've talked about this on previous episodes about how, we have a couple flavors out now. We're working on the third one we just finished. We got a couple more that we're, developing right now. And it's one of those things where, if we had taken the shortcut and done the natural flavors route, or the artificial flavor route, or the artificial sweetener route, or all the things that all these other companies do, if we would have taken that route, then what would have ended up happening is we would probably have 6 flavors out now, if not more than that, but they wouldn't be of the highest quality. They would be compromising your health. They'd be putting you in a position where, you could not have the best results with it. And as a result of that, we didn't want to do that, because the other thing I wanted to mention about, the entrepreneurial journey is that your company is a reflection of you. And it's made me realize that everything's a reflection of me, the way that I am, the way that I, interact with others, the way that, I go about doing business, the way that I go about taking care of my health, the way that I go about doing the small things on a daily basis. It's all a reflection of who I am and who the people are that work here. And it's really important that people, see that, every company out there is just a reflection of the people who run it. The people, and it shows how much they care and how much they're committed to the people that they serve. And it's one thing that I've noticed about, the majority of businesses out there is like they're very centered on themselves and what's best for them. And, that's kind of why we have the climate of, businesses that we do, across the board and on the planet now, is because, these businesses are only focused about, taking care of themselves. And, a lot of it comes at the expense of their own consumer, the person that's giving them money, the person that's taking care of them. They're not taking care of them back. And, I do believe that, entrepreneurship and businesses of the future, they're going to have to take really, really good care of their customer base in so many ways, with their products, their services, their follow-up, their customer service, what they give back to the world and into the community. They're going to have to be really transparent and honest and forthcoming in all those ways, because if they don't, they're not going to last, because people are going to have higher and higher expectations as, the planet begins to wake up and more people become more conscious about, what they're putting in their body, what they're putting on their body, what they're putting around their body, what they're putting in their homes, etc. And so it's going to be one of those things where, intelligent consumers, will create a better market, because they'll have a higher demand for better things. And so we wanted to, from the beginning, make sure that we delivered a product that really covered all the bases plus some. It was really the perfected version of, what the hydration stick supplement market could look like. And that's what we've created. And so we want it to be a reflection of, who we are. And as we become better and better in all ways, shapes, and forms, it reflects in our product, it reflects in our execution, it reflects in your end user experience. So everybody wins, because I think that businesses of the future are going to have to work on a win-win-win platform, which is, the planet wins, the humans win, the business wins. We don't have to live in this duality where one person wins and another person loses, or there's a winner and a loser in every single interaction. There's a potential that everybody can walk away as a winner, when the people who are starting the business put the planet and the people first above profits. And so it's really been that's been a huge shift in my entrepreneurial journey as well, because when you first get into it, it's all about maximizing profits and maximizing this and that. And while that stuff's very important, and I agree, you gotta have profits to be able to make an impact. It's one of those things where you can do it in a conscious way that makes it where every single person benefits. The product itself actually helps you improve your life. It helps you with having better mental clarity and function, and allows you to get more out of your life. So that way you can go give a higher level of consciousness to your relationships and your profession and passion and career, whatever it is that you're working on. And then that trickles down in other ways and has a ripple effect that goes far beyond what we see here at Raveraide. And then the planet benefits from it, because we're using real berries and real fruits and essential oils, and we're not using all these artificial flavors and sweeteners. And there's things that we're working on to even make our product even more eco-friendly than it is right now. And as a result of that, us taking good care of our customer base and the planet results in us being taken care of by you guys. And so it's this really beautiful cycle that is never ending, and it's a self-sustaining thing when we allow it to be. And so that's been a big shift as well over time. I've really been in this place where the person that I've become as a result of doing this is radically transformed in so many ways, and in very many positive ways. I'm more disciplined, more focused, more driven, more focused on the planet and the well-being of others than I was before, because we're actually creating something that affects a lot of people. And so the way that I view the world is completely different. It's allowed me to heal a lot in a lot of ways, and realize how important it is to trust others, how important it is to make sure that we do our best on a daily basis, and we show up in the ways that we want to, show up and need to show up for others. And there's so many benefits and changes and developments that have resulted from that. And it's something that I'm super grateful for. And, we just want to keep pressing that forward. We want to keep, moving, the needle forward with, what we do, what we provide, and how we help, not only the EDM community, but the world at large. Because the more that we keep growing the business, the more that I keep realizing that this isn't just about music festivals. This is about any human that needs some sort of support or assistance or guidance or encouragement to become a better, more self-actualized and self-love version of themselves. And we're here to help provide that, whether that be through this podcast or through our products or through our information, or our resources that we put out. We want to make sure that every single thing that we do is coming with the intention of benefiting somebody, to become a better version of themselves. Because, if we had more people living in that mindset, or more people living in that frequency, then, we wouldn't see, even a fraction of the problems that we experience, on the planet right now. We would start seeing, more people coming together and realizing that we're all one. And that when we live in that frequency of oneness, then there's no separation, there's no division, there's no hate, on this planet. And we actually can live what this experience was truly meant to be, which is, heaven on earth. We create that ourselves, through our experience and by being connected to, infinite intelligence and others. and all of the things I believe that happen in the world that are negative, that are, what we're experiencing a lot of right now is the direct effect of the causation of division and separation and labeling and, all the things that, keep us stuck in lower paradigms and frequencies. So it's important to know that, this entrepreneurial journey has definitely made me into a person who, is much more connected to the whole than I was before, and it's given me much more of a purpose to be alive. And I really have a hard time even thinking about who I was before this even started. And all I can say is that it's something that's given me a reason to want to be here. And I hope that that's in the perfect timing in your journey that you're able to find the same exact thing for yourself. I really do wish and hope that you are going to find that thing that gives you that purpose to be alive, that reason for wanting to wake up on a daily basis and commit and devote yourself, to your highest capacity, and then keep digging and finding more and more and more, and continuing to win and, serve and provide for, what matters most to you, whether that be the planet, others, yourself. It's one of those things where I think the reason we see so many problems on this planet, with depression, anxiety, and mental health issues is because so many people are living out of the frame of what is actually truly possible for them. And if they could, break the mold of being who they are and who they've been, and find that thing that will really ignite them on fire and get them really living, in their purpose, I think we'd see a huge swing for the better, as a collective. So without further ado, guys, I hope that you guys really enjoyed this episode. We haven't really talked much about, entrepreneurship, but I think that a lot of the things that were discussed definitely translate over to real life in a lot of ways. And I think that you guys would really, find some benefit if something, resonated as truth for you, to be able to integrate that into your day-to-day life and start applying that. Because once you do that, it really puts you into a position where, you can actually start making that lasting change and, letting go of the identity of who you used to be and stepping into the identity of what you're really meant to be. And that's when we start finding that life really is worth living. It's worth pursuing, to its fullest, and it's worth, being here in whatever capacity you feel like being here in. So be sure to check us out at www.drinkraveraide.com. We're still sold out of the Lady Lemonade. We're working on some different iterations of it, and we're also working on some things like I mentioned before, like making it more eco-friendly for the planet. So we're kind of in limbo on that, but it's one of those things, once I know the clear direction on which way we should head, we'll definitely get that made back in production and back out to you guys, because I know it's a lot of your guys' favorite product. But yeah, other than that, we got that, and then we've got a couple other flavors we're getting developed. So this should be coming out, hopefully pretty soon, most likely early next year to kick off festival season. But we will keep you guys in the loop as that develops. So be sure to check us out at www.drinkraveraide.com, and we will talk to you soon. You guys have a great day. Peace.